Ahoy! Today, Scott, the game director for New World, has confirmed that fresh start servers will be coming soon. Fresh start servers means that there will be no transfers from other servers, everyone starts at zero, no one claims anything with money from other servers either, and the game is basically as close to how it was at launch as possible. This is something that, along with more servers in general, because of the higher population at the moment, was very highly in demand over the most recent weeks. Generally, I would say these are very good news, and I'm very much looking forward to see how these servers will develop over time. I am a little bit concerned with a few things surrounding them though, and that kind of depends on what exactly happens in the next weeks. So we will get more information in the future, but what we can probably expect is that those fresh start servers will likely come with Brimstone Sands. It would by far make the most sense considering they're being announced now. With Brimstone Sands, we also see the rework of the starting experience until approximately level 25, or maybe even a little bit longer to be honest, where now there are two starting territories, being Monarch's Bluff and Windswood, and then as you level up you kind of get directed towards Everfall. I'll talk more about my leveling experience until 25 on the test servers in the near future, so if you'd like to see that, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell. But what I can say at this point is that while there are definitely improvements with the early leveling experience, that is obviously not something that carries beyond the point until where it is reworked, not the leveling until 60. And I mean, most of the time you're going to be spending leveling is past the levels that have been reworked so far. So people that start on this fresh server will initially have a new and fresh experience, but then very quickly kind of drop back to where New World was before, though there are some changes in terms of how questing is rewarded and how town boarding is rewarded on this next patch as well, so that would obviously affect this server too. But I could imagine especially new players being thrown off a bit when the first levels of questing experience are a lot more fleshed out than anything that comes afterwards. Compared to launch, the entire experience on this new server will be very much more fast-paced though. Obviously people know how to min-max much better, but the game has also been sped up in progression. Leveling is quicker, you get more XP, and also once you hit 500 it's much easier to get to 600 gear score than it was on release. Even the Umbral Shard grind for 625 gear score will be much faster than when that first came out, because now you get Umbral Shards from many activities before even hitting 600 gear score, and beyond that, anything you do basically gives you some Umbral Shards. What will be especially interesting are the differences in server economy. For example, trophy mats will be a lot more rare, and specific crafting clothing, like for example weaponsmith clothing, will be relatively rare in the beginning because people will have to farm it first before the market is saturated, so initially a lot of things will probably be very expensive. So it would be cool to see where that server ends up after 2-3 months compared to where other servers are today. Now, there is one big concern that I have with this, and that is kind of depending on how far the patch will go. What was announced in the last dev show was that there will be changes to companies and wars, and specifically shell companies, basically limiting how many wars you can participate in, and also requiring people from the company that is being attacked to defend their own territory. Like a lot of people, they were talking about 35+. But so far we don't know if that will be in the Brimstone patch or after the Brimstone patch. If that is in the Brimstone patch, fantastic. If it's after the Brimstone patch, that is a bad sign for the new servers, in my opinion. Because that could mean that on those servers the same thing happens that on pretty much almost all other servers happens as well, which is that some very strong big companies are able to gobble up most of the territories with shell companies and constantly get so much money influx that they can just get the best gear at all times, which obviously gives them a further advantage. This is something they have discussed in depth on this dev show, they are very aware of it, but we just don't know when the changes and the fixes to that will happen and if they will affect these fresh start servers. I personally believe that these fresh start servers should only happen once these war changes and these shell company changes are in place, because I think they will fundamentally change how these servers will feel, and having a good start in that regard on a fresh server would be much better than kind of having the current system repeat itself and run into the same issues, at least for a while, until the new system is introduced. Overall, I didn't expect fresh servers so early, and it's a pleasant surprise, though I do hope that it doesn't rule out another set of fresh servers once we get to the full overhauled leveling experience, once they've managed to do what they did for the early levels for all levels until 60, which is what they said they're planning. Because if the entire quest line up until 60 is better, I think it's gonna keep people around much, much more. Once there are more news, I will of course update you here, so if you want to stay tuned for that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. Thanks for watching, Duke out.